She calls it a manifesting. Our next guest manifested cancer, which she feels is the best thing that ever happened to her. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and the huge audience over on the Gnostic TV network. Today, we are chatting with Amanda Reece, who is a life and manifesting coach, here to share with us her story and how you too can manifest the life you want. Welcome to the show, Amanda. It's great to have you with us.
Hey, Jill, it's really great to be here too.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the big question. Are you ready? Okay, here you go. What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
A significant thing that we can do as individuals to make an impact on how the world is going. You know, this question could change depending on which version of where we are. Like if I think back to if I were to have heard this question when I was younger, what would the change be? Well, it would be like one of those basic answers, like, let's help other people. Like, what did you get into psychology for? Man, do I want to help people? Well, that might be the wrong reason to get into that kind of thing. And now, with all the coaching that I do and just showing up and hearing other people's stories, I think that the biggest impact that we can do is listen and hold space for other people and hear their journeys. And even before, when you and I just were talking back and forth, I think there's this really big thing that we can do in just validating and believing in one another and what we have to say and how we're showing up as we are right now. So I think that's the best thing that we can do. Even in the self-esteem workshops that I do, it's just holding space for where we are right now in the journey. And nobody's got it all figured out. Nobody does. That's one of the ways I greet people in my self-esteem workshop. I say, a lot of people can run workshops like this. And if somebody says that they're the expert and they've got it all figured out, they are fucking lying to you. They don't. We are all just figuring it out. So it's let's hold space for one another for where we are right now in our journeys, because where we're going and where we've been are two totally different things. And I have women all ages attending this, and we're all in different areas of our life, and we're all growing and doing different things, but we just all show up and we listen and we are just there and we cheerlead around each other. So I think just that holding space piece is super important for the world. That's what we need to be doing for each other, more of it. Yeah.
Yes. Holding space and not having to think about what they're thinking about, just allowing them to have the thought and to explore it and to hold the space for them to feel safe, to be authentic. I think the being authentic and not just squashing down our feelings and thoughts in order to make other people feel better, and not having to just accept other people's opinions about things or directions about things. And I think as we get into your story about the medical community, that this really comes up a lot. Nobody is the authority on anything. They may have an opinion about things, and it may be an educated opinion, but it's always going to come from some place in their own personal journey about what they want for you, especially the medical community.
That's right. Perspectives. We actually had a chat of this the other night in my self-esteem workshop, and it's perspective. Somebody else was going through some health things, and it was you need to go and get other perspectives on this, because your doctor just has one. You could go to another doctor, they could say something else, and another doctor could say something else, and one of them might be correct, or all three of them might be correct, but you need to go and get other ideas out there. It's people can get very tunnel visioned, and gaslighting can happen in the medical profession a lot.
Especially when they don't know what's going on with you.
That's right.
We're going to be talking about endometriosis because it's part of your story. But my own experience with endometriosis is I was gaslit for decades. And, I was a young woman and in a lot of pain most of the time. and I didn't know what was causing it. And the things that they were telling me that were the cause of it was just like, no, that can't be it. It's just not possible. So, it was just like, and finally, after literally 25 or 26 or 27 years, I ran into a doctor who's like, oh, you have endometriosis and we can fix that. I'm like, oh God, I think I'm in love. And he told me about Motrin. And all this time, I'd never understood that Motrin was like my best friend. It's terrible for you, but when
Yeah.
you're in that kind of pain, I
Mm-hmm.
was not functioning. Like, there were times people would take me to the hospital and say, there's something wrong with her. And they'd be like, well, it's, whatever. And it wasn't that.
Fluff off. Yeah, the fluff off. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Not getting to like the root cause of like what's actually going on. That happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us your story, because your story is, it's interesting.
It is interesting. My life has changed completely. I often say that sometimes I have to sit down with that old version of myself because she still lives in me, but she's so far gone. Like I don't remember who she was anymore, but she got me to here. And I have a lot of gratitude for her. But my story started back in when I was a teenager. When I really think about it, it started when I was a teenager, and there goes the childhood years and get my period. And of course, we're all told that, well, now you're a woman and this is what life is like and this is how you're supposed to deal with things. And my periods were not good. I would pass out from the pain from periods. I'd pass out just like I could be blow drying my hair and all of a sudden I'd be passing out. I would have a shower. I would pass out in the shower. The pain would just cripple me over even back then. And I was, told like, this is a woman, this is what it's all being about. You got to suck it up, all these things. And at a young age, I ended up getting put on birth control to help with these periods. I think I was 16 or 17. Well, then, I get birth control and younger. So I'm like, yeah, I can start having sex because I understand what this means now. I started having sex and it was not good. It hurt so much. And I didn't understand it being younger because my friends, they were all starting to have sex and they loved it. They were talking about how great it was and enjoying it and learning about it. And I didn't love it so much. It hurt, and it was an embarrassing topic for me to, talk about with my girlfriends because my views weren't the same as theirs and I didn't understand it. So in my early 20s, I actually stopped having sex. And I went into a decade. It was a whole 11 years of not having sex. And I just kind of fluffed it off with people that I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to have a relationship. It just wasn't for me. I didn't want any of those things. And, a lot of people tried to make assumptions and try to figure me out about why it was I wasn't doing these things, but I just didn't want to. I started packing on a lot of weight. From a young age, I started gaining a lot of weight, and they chalked that up to a hypothyroid disorder, which I do have still to this day. Mm-hmm. So they kind of put it on that, like, oh, it's your thyroid, it's your genetics, all these things. You can lose weight, you can do this stuff. And the weight just kept coming on. And that led me to become even more sedentary over the years. And I started, like the lower back pain that I had, like I couldn't stand up for more than 5 minutes at a time. Like it was horrible. Like I remember if I was just even walking through a store, like I had to find a bench or something to sit down, or sometimes I'd squat in the middle of the store just to alleviate the pressure that was happening in my back, because I felt like my organs would just come gushing out of me somehow if I didn't sit down. It was just such pressure and it hurt so badly. And so I started moving less and less with my body, which increased more weight. The only source of joy I had was food and cigarettes. I used to be a heavy smoker. And I started having a very self-deprecating humor. that, I would make jokes like if I ever got a Fitbit, it would be to see how little steps I could do in a day. And people thought it was funny, and I just leaned into that sarcasm even more. Like I felt like Chandler Bing off of Friends, like with how funny you could get with stuff. But that's just the life I was living, and I was happy. Um, and I told people I was happy, and and every night I would come home and I would, I'd just be like in tears, and I'd be so tired and in pain. I was at that time self-medicating with alcohol to just forget about the pain. I would take acetaminophen, I would take Tylenol, T3s, like whatever I could get my kind of hands on. I'd be taking Motrin as well. I'd be taking Motrin, and I would be eating that stuff like candy around the clock, just to help with
Mhm.
the pain and get through the day. And that was my life. And I would go into my doctors, and I was in my mid 30s. And at the time, I just actually turned 40 earlier this month. And I would ask my doctor for a hysterectomy, and she would, they would, you're too young. You're going to change your mind. You're going to want to have kids. My periods were out of control even still then, and it just wouldn't happen. Well, then something shifted, and I actually ended up having to go off. And I had actually, I'll say this too, like I had made the decision quite a few years ago. Now I'll have to see when it was, but I made the decision a long time ago to stop smoking. And I actually did it. I was able to stop smoking, not something that I ever thought I would be able to do, and I did it. And this was through the pandemic and everything too. And then I um had to go off birth control, and my periods got even worse. And it was beyond anything. Like I tracked it, and I bled all the way from September to December. I had a little bit of a break, and it just kept going like every single day. And I was dropping clots like the size of toonies. It was terrifying. And I kept calling my doctor and getting appointments. And so she was, we tried to get me in for ultrasounds, and they were like, you have fibroids, you have cysts, all these things. This is what's happening. At one point, they thought it could have been endometriosis, and that was the first time I heard that word. But they said, no, it's absolutely not endometriosis. It's these fibroids and these cysts that are causing this problem. And so I just kept begging for a hysterectomy, and they wouldn't. And I had to go into a gynecologist to get an IUD put in because I needed some sort of birth control too. The pandemic had just happened. And I joked to people about this, again, self-deprecating humor, but like it took a pandemic for me to want to start to date again. And so I tried to start dating after 10 years, tried to start having sex, and it was still painful. It was actually even worse than I remembered it. It was horrible. But here I was trying to date and have a life because this is what we're supposed to be doing with these happy check boxes. And I again kept asking for a hysterectomy, and they wouldn't. I went into this gynecologist, and he put in an IUD into me. And it was the most painful experience of my entire life. I was in tears in the office. It was a very, very traumatic experience. And he was pretty much telling me to suck it up and that it wasn't that bad. This was the communication from this doctor. And I'll never forget that. And I remember coming home, and I was like, I don't want this IUD in me. I want my fucking uterus out. Like, get it out of me. And I started visualizing what it would be like if I just inserted my fingers because I could feel the strings. And I was like, what if I insert my fingers and I just like tug it? Like, well, I'll just like come out. Like, maybe I could just get it out. And I started visualizing like things like this. And within 2 weeks, my doctor called me, and she's like, you need to go back to that gynecologist because your pap smear results were delayed coming back from COVID. And you need to get into this gynecologist again. I didn't want to go back to this gynecologist because I didn't like this, Well, it would be too long of a wait to get in there. So I did reluctantly go back, and I go to this gynecologist office again. And second time being traumatized on his table, he has to do a biopsy of my cervix because there was abnormal cells on my cervix from this pap smear. So he does a biopsy, and as my legs are open on the table, and he's spraying away with that vinegar solution, ready to take it. He just blurts out, like, staring right into my vagina. This looks like cancer. And I was like, holy shit, like, did I just manifest cancer? Like, what just happened? And my whole world just felt like if you've ever had cancer, like that feeling that just like comes over you. Like, is this it? Like, is this how it ends? So I was like, okay, well, what's the plan? We had to wait for the results. He still wouldn't give me a hysterectomy because he said he needed to do another procedure if it did come back cancerous. It came back cancerous. I was like, well, I can get a hysterectomy if it's cancer. So I started asking for cancer. I asked for cancer. I was like, let it be cancer so I can get this hysterectomy. And then it did happen. He said, that the cells were cancerous and they needed to do a cone procedure. And all this time too, he kept telling me that he needed to do this cone procedure. And don't worry, he would put a band in my cervix to make sure I had kids. And I said, I do not want children. If I find out that you've put a band in, you're going to have a chat with my lawyer, like pretty much just like losing it on this doctor after all the traumatic experiences that he's kind of put me through at this point. And after the cone procedure, again, I found myself just wanting the cancer to spread just enough that I would be able to get this hysterectomy. And he called me and he's like, well, you got your wish. The cancer has spread, and now you're going to have a radical hysterectomy, and we'll refer you to an oncology team. And I was like, perfect, thanks. And I just hung up the phone and I went back to work. Like, I remember I left a work meeting, took this call, and went back to work. I was like, amazing. And I wasn't telling anybody either about this, that I was going through this whole cancer journey for months. And I didn't tell anybody other than my doctor because I was just trying to make sense of it myself. I was also doing Reiki and just trying to center myself and ground myself and get in the present and being like, are you actually like asking for cancer? Like, what is happening here? Like, what's going on in your brain? And then you're terrified too that you have cancer. Like, it was the
Well,
scariest
yeah.
thing, but also asking for it. It was horrifying. And I'm stuck between wanting and being terrified that, I'm leaving and I don't know how to make good with death. Like, I don't know what's happening with me right now. And then I went in for my radical hysterectomy, and the surgery like took a long time that day. And actually I had a bedside conversation from a new oncologist that was assigned to my file, and she had a really inappropriate conversation with me before we went in to this surgery. But she got me to change my plan that I had for surgery. And so when I woke up from surgery, I was completely out of it, and all I heard was a nurse say that they had to take my ovary too. And so the plan that I understood from before surgery was like, if they had to take my ovaries, then that meant that the cancer had spread really far. And I was like, well, why would you even wake me up if I was going to die, right? Like, why would you even do this if the cancer had spread? Just let me go to sleep again. And I learned after the grogginess and all the stuff from the surgery, but I learned that the surgery took so long because they had to clear out stage 4 endometriosis. And one of my ovaries supposedly also left my body. They still weren't sure if it showed up on a CT scan randomly a couple years ago. Whole other can of worms there that we could talk hours about with all the mistakes made on my medical file. But my uterus, I learned, was attached to my rectum. So they had to they had to do a whole bunch of stuff to detangle my organs from one another because everything was just fused together. And like stage 4, for people that don't know what endometriosis is, that's the highest stage you can possibly have for endo. And I didn't know what it made. I didn't know what it even was back then. I was like, what is endometriosis? I'd only heard of it once before casually. And that one time in my medical thing when they were like, no, it's cysts and fibroids, not endo. So I had looked it up a little bit back then, and I didn't know what it meant for me. And I had a lot of complications from my surgery because of all the stuff that they had to do in there. I had nerve damage in my thighs still that I have to, take medication for this day. And the the thing though, after like it was a few weeks after surgery, and I had to really slow down my recovery because my wound ended up opening up. It was horrifying. It was awful. Just all these things were happening. And I remember standing up, and part of my plan after surgery was that I had to walk. And I remember laughing at them, being like, I'm not walking. Like, I can't even stand for 5 minutes at a time. And you expect me to go and walk for half an hour every day? Like, that's not happening. Let me out of here. Let me go back to my couch where I can just go have my snacks and do whatever I want to do with my life, right? Watch my shows, all that stuff. That's all I wanted to do. And so one day I was at my desk and I was working, and it was a few weeks after the surgery. And I stood up to just stretch because my back was a little achy. And I was standing up. I have a sit stand desk, and I stood up, and I didn't know how long I had been working. And I was like, my mind finally kicked in after all those weeks. And I was like, I started looking for it. I was like, where is my lower back pain? Like, where is it? And I sat down. I don't like I just had never connected the pieces together, and I I was in disbelief, and I was like, what's going on here? And I was still on medication. And then I started setting a timer for myself. So I would stand up and set a timer for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I was like, I can stand. I can actually stand. And it hurt because I had never really done that before, but hurt in my legs and hurt in different parts of my body. And I was like, I can actually stand. Where's my lower back pain? And I didn't want to tell people even then that this had happened. I was because I was so in disbelief with it. And so I started testing it and going for like little walks. One time I went for a walk around the block. I never ever walked around the block of my apartment before ever. And I'd lived there at this point for like seven years. And I walked around my neighborhood, and I was like, I've never done that. And then I started going for walks with friends because they were coming around and helping me out. And I remember the first time I went on a hike, and I hiked like 4 kilometers, like 4K. And I was like, holy shit, like this is amazing. And friends, they're avid hikers, but they were celebrating with me. Like they were taking things slow with me. Um, and then one friend and I planned, she's like, do you want to go out west with me? I have this house that's been gifted to me for like over Christmas and New Year's. Do you want to go with me? And so I did. I planned to go out west with her, and we ended up hiking through like these magical rainforests. And I saw stuff I never thought I would ever see. And then that just fueled and propelled me to do even more. And so I started getting stronger and walking even more. And then I had manifested a remote work lifestyle so I could travel more and see more of the world because now I have a working body. And for all of these years, like I was always told I could, that it was always in my head that I could lose weight, but I never could. Over the last 3 years, just from being able to walk, I've, been able to release 70 pounds. And I've just been on this incredible healing journey and just traveling all over the world and seeing things I never thought I would ever get an experience to do. And I get to do this. And the last 3 years have not been like they've been challenging because I was like a toddler learning how to walk. So I ended up getting plantar fasciitis. I ended up getting knee injuries. I ended up getting into physiotherapy and learning how to connect with my body and learning how my body works and healing my body and strengthening my body because I was doing stuff I had never ever done before. So my body was like brand new. And at one point, my sister was like, at our age, people are starting to learn everything that our bodies can't do anymore. And you're learning what your body can do. And it was just such a powerful reframe for me. And I really just leaned into that because I keep just learning everything that I can do now. And it's just completely shifted my entire life. So that's why I say cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me because without that cancer, I would have never ever gotten that like the uterus eviction that I wanted. And then discovering that I had that endometriosis. But then I also, because gratitude is such a big part of my journey, I have to give gratitude to endometriosis. I have to give gratitude to all those years of pain because if it wasn't for the symptoms of endometriosis, they also would have never found that cervical cancer because it was not symptoms of that cancer that I had that led to that uterus eviction. It was symptoms from the endometriosis that led to that diagnosis of cancer. And they were able to catch it so early. And my life has completely changed now. So it's like, I still, like I can feel like the elation coming off of me even every time I share it and talk about it and do these things, because my life is just so different now, and I'm so happy, like genuinely fucking authentically happy. And I will often sometimes say, like, because I spend so much time on that couch out there in my living room, sometimes I go and sit with that old version of me just to like give her like a thank you, because she got me here. So it's pretty cool.
It is
That's
pretty
It's pretty cool. So when I say things like cancer is the best thing that ever happened to me, it's so wild to say that, completely far-fetched to say that. Because cancer, as like so many of us know, has not been good for so many people. And my doctor, like after going through this story, like watching my transformation and doing all these things, she's like, you need to write your book. You need to do these things, because she's like, I don't hear of people talking about cancer the way that you talk about it. And I've, over the last few years, anytime I'm met with something that is an obstacle now, I I have to go through this. This is something that's a gift for me, because it's going to get me somewhere else that I need to be. As hard as it is to be in this vibration right now, this is where I am right now. So I have to feel this. I have to go through it, and it's going to be even better on the other side of it. So I keep approaching those setbacks, if you will, as something that's going to really transform me on the other side of it, and it always does. So now when people are going through something shitty, I always say, you know what? I'm kind of glad you're going through this, because this is going to really challenge you to grow and heal in ways that you weren't going to do before if this did not happen. And it sucks to be in this right now. And I can feel that. And I want to be here for you and support you through this. But you're gonna get to the other side of it. You will, if you're choosing to do that. Like, what is your mindset right now is telling you to do? And if it's not, then you're gonna keep spiraling. You're gonna get on this hamster wheel, and things are gonna get worse. But if you find that pathway to just kind of move forward, then you're gonna do it, and you're gonna be really grateful that you've done this. So yeah, it's been an incredible 3 years. Hmm.
It's amazing to me that more doctors, even at this point, don't really know about endometriosis. And just for the listeners, endometriosis is when the lining of your uterus is on the outside of your uterus instead of the inside, and it grows lesions. So there's scar tissue that grows and it wraps around your organs, and it in my case, it was cutting off my colon and had made me sterile because it had cut off my fallopian tubes. So all of this material every month gets inflamed and bleeds. So you're bleeding internally. There's no place for that blood to go. And it's affecting your other organs. And so when they go in and clean you up, finally, after all of these years, and if you've had other surgeries beforehand, like I had my appendix out, so that scar tissue was also growing because
Yes.
it just like attaches to everything. And people don't understand, who haven't experienced this, how insanely painful it is. And it's not like just one day a month. It's like continuous. There's just different levels of how much pain you're in. And you talked about passing out. I have vivid memories. I was talking with my sister. Um, last month when I was down visiting her, about the time we were traveling together in the car, and she was 14 and I was 16, and I was trying to tell her what to do if I passed out while I was driving us home, because I was really afraid I was going to. It's just like
Yeah.
it's pain like you cannot even begin to imagine. So when you're talking about being grateful for cancer so that you could get the uterus out of there, because at least you understood that that's where the pain was coming from. I
Where
didn't
it's
even
from.
understand where it was coming from. I just
Yeah.
was that ignorant.
Hmm. That's like, and so intuitively, uh, th- th- I knew where it was, like what the issue was there and what was happening. I may
Right.
not have been able to communicate, but like I did say, I was like, all those years I wanted a hysterectomy and my doctors would not do it. And they told me they would not do it because of my age and that I would change my mind and want to have children. And I was like, those are not good reasons of not to have it. And it's almost like I'm now this case that has proven why you should be listening to women and doing this. Like, we are in charge of our bodies and we get to choose what we want for ourselves. So and all along, like, and I've had to go through all of the feelings of this, right? Because I remember booking an appointment with my doctor just to yell at her. I was in that angry phase of my healing, and I was like, who can I lash out about for this? Because I'm so mad about all those, like, I lost, like decades because of this pain. Like, this started from high school, all the like elementary school, all the way until like I was in my mid 30s. That's an entire lifetime for some don't make it that long. And I was so angry, and I booked this appointment to yell at her, and she's like, you need to find ways to move through this. I get that you're angry with me and angry at all of that, like, all of these things, but this is what happened. This is what happened. And I'm just like, you're right, it is what happened. And I found like, that's, like, I found other ways to start channeling it, getting into therapy, doing more Reiki, physiotherapy, the gym, traveling, all of these things. And all this healing, of course, then starts trickling out into all of my life, because I started looking at my life as in these pockets where I had, like, I was in that disease state of addictive behavior for all those years because of this disease in my body, trying to numb it. So I started looking at all of that, and like, my family relationships changed, friendship relationships changed, because I could no longer, I'm no longer drinking. I'm no longer doing those things. Like, my whole life has completely shifted and changed. And I'm like, some hearts and some souls are just not with me anymore on that journey of transformation. And there's no resentment there on my part, even for that. Like, because I know what happens when that anger and resentment is in my body. And I'm like, well, that's how cancer was manifesting for me too. When I look at how I was back then, like, of course, cancer came into my life. So I'm just, I do all these things now, and I really I focus on what's good for my healing. And I make those choices for myself and what's best for me for that stuff, and what's going to bring me like that peace that I need and clarity in my body, so that way I can feel good and do the things that I need to do each day. But wow, it's
And so
been.
how do you work with other people in terms of their healing and their manifesting the life that they want?
So one of the things, and I've been doing it for years, is at the Women's Center of Halton, as I've been offering these, because they sponsor them, they're free, these workshops with women. And so I offer a self-esteem workshop, and I've been doing that even before my cancer journey. And now it's evolved a lot over the years, because, well, I've evolved, we've all changed, and I've gotten to hear all these other stories from women all over the world, because it's virtual. People come in and attend these, and we all just hold space for one another and talk about our journeys and where we are. And I walk them and guide them through a 6-week self-esteem program, helping them find different perspectives in their life and shifting different perspectives, figuring out where their roots were and noticing patterns in their life. And I let them be a detective in their world, right? Like, they are the detectives of their lives. They get to shine a light on all of those areas of where they are right now. And here, I give them these activities that have helped me along the years, do these things. I used to work with kids. I was a child and youth worker for years too. And I remember even doing some of these exercises with the youth back then too. And I do these exercises continuously too, because they're good check-ins for myself to be like, where did I used to think about this? And how have my views shifted? It's like leaving breadcrumbs to see that healing journey. So I get to do the self-esteem workshop. And because now one of the greatest things that I did for myself after the pandemic, well, I started to date again, as we know. And I can also say, like, I now know what everybody is talking about with sex, because it's amazing. amazing. Like, I love it so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what everybody's been talking about out here. It's so good. And I'm so happy that I get to explore like my sexuality now and lean into all of that vibration. It's been amazing for my healing. And so one of the things now that I do is I date, and I actually coach other women on dating. So that's one of the workshops that I offer at the at the Women's Center. I also coach the gals on making adult friendships, because who you liaise with and who you're connected with, that sets the tone for your vibration a lot in life. The people that have remained in my life, you can see why they've remained in my life, and I've remained in theirs. We're like these amazing cheerleaders for one another, and we're in this vibration of positivity and growth and healing and learning. And accountability, like all of these amazing virtues that we're doing, right? These are the people I surround myself with all the time now. And then the other workshop that I do that I really it's close to my heart is networking, business networking, because I think again, it goes back to that liaising thing, right? Like who we connect with can open up doors and possibilities into our own career growth and what we're moving towards and doing. So I get to do all of this. And it's been so much fun. And I actually use the app Bumble to do a lot of those workshops through. So I coach the gals on Bumble BFF, Bumble Dating, and Bumble Business. So that's where it comes from. So I can give them a platform and a tool to use, but we talk about just all the ins and outs as those topics kind of relate. And then a lot of them find it's like cross-pollination, because while they're working on dating, they're like, oh, I need to get some of my self-esteem in check here because I can't handle another ghosting thing. Why am I internalizing this so much? So then you find them in my self-esteem workshop. And a lot of the gals come, I've had a lot of like repeat attendees over the years, because things shift for them or change, and then they just want to come back for the conversation. They know the exercises and the activities always stay the same, but the conversation, depending on who the group is always different. And there's something about group coaching that I really love. Like there's something that happens when all these women get together where we can just all, hurrah for one another and hold space and listen and be vulnerable. That is just different from one-to-one coaching. And sometimes it's turned into one-to-one coaching. Maybe nobody else is showing up for the night, and then they get all this one-to-one time, and we get to learn different things about each other in that space too. So I get to do a lot of those things with helping that. I'm really, really fortunate and that's just one of the many things that I get to offer and help people with. And I've got so many other projects on the go that are coming up. And I'm so excited to share those gifts with the world, because if I hadn't have gone through everything I've gone through in life, I would have never been able to come up with these ideas to share with other people. So I'm really excited to share more and have some of these platforms launch. And I'm in so much creative energy lately. It's been a privilege, and it's a privilege to age now too. It's a privilege to age, and I look forward to life. So I get to do a lot of cool shit and help a lot of people. Mm-hmm.
That's so great. And how can people get a hold of you?
They can reach out to me through my website. I'm at amandafesting.com. They can find me on Instagram or TikTok. They can just type in Amanda Festing, and there I'll be. Instagram and Facebook, they'll see AIM and Align. That's my slogan. It's actually a whole framework that I use with AIM and Align. It's a beautiful acronym that just really has guided me on my journey. And when I did all this reflecting and like, how did I manifest this? Because people are like, how did you do this? And I just said, I aim and aligned. And, you aim for something and you align with it. And it turned into an acronym that gives the pathway to how to manifest. So I'm going to be working soon even on a course just to help people out with this a little bit more. And then that way they can do whatever it is that they want to do. I always say that, just live like an alpaca and just do whatever it is that you want to do, and it's going to happen. So
I love that. And so they can find you at amandafesting.com.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today, Amanda. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks, Jill.
To learn more about Amanda and take advantage of her free virtual workshops, please visit amandafesting.com, and we'll be sure to put those links in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at jill@gnostictv.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on the Gnostic TV network. Please join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.